Should unjust laws be followed? Why or why not?
I think unjust laws should not be followed because Negroes have experienced enough grossly treatment in the court. And I found that in the paper when Martin Luther King said that that's why he doesn't do anything like negotiable. He does it like directly to the person.
Okay, I think that unjust law should not be followed because you have the responsibility to obey laws that are correct, but you have the right to also disobey laws that are not correct, which is unjust laws. Like it says in paragraph, it says that the answer lies in the fact that there are two types of laws, just and unjust. I will be the first advocate of obeying just laws. One has not only a legal, but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. I would agree with Saint Augustine that an unjust law is no law at all.
I agree with Karen because that is true. I mean, an unjust law could also mean that it's something that will not help the community. Like, even in the word it says unjust, and like it says in the quote, an unjust law is no law at all. So how someone is going to obey an unjust law when they're not agreeing with it? Like, it's not making a change or anything, or like, it just feel like it. So, like it says on the same paragraph that I will be the first to advocate obeying just laws, not unjust laws.
I agree with Karen and Kimberly because if you don't agree with the law, then you should stick up for what you believe in. And if you don't want to follow the unjust laws, then don't.
Well, I agree with all of you because I don't think unjust laws should be followed. I think justified laws should be followed because they're the correct laws to follow.
To back up what someone said, like sticking up for what you believe in, is just like that thing about the Afghanistan girls go to school when Eliza Jane stuck up to those men and was like, you guys are blind by not backing up girls going to school because women are the something of that. Yeah. So that's why I'm really saying.
I agree with Kisan and because they said that if you should go ahead and follow what you believe is right and not just following just laws is right. Like whatever will make the world down. So I agree with everything. I like how Anne like she shared what we just talked about like a while ago. How she read back reading about Anne, how she stood up what she believed in and what she thought it was right, like how like Martin Luther King is doing. And it's true that you cannot let someone tell you what to do when you know it's not right. Like, you just stood up what you believe in and just fight for it. So, is there any question?
Question number 2. Why does Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. choose direct action over negotiation?
It's just like what I said before, because he doesn't like negotiation because he likes doing everything straight up and not be like over the phone or on camera or something, negotiating with other people to do something that is right. Just like when he said on paragraph 2, the first page, he was like, Whatever affect one directly affect all indirectly. Never again can we afford to live with the narrow, provincial, outside, negotiate, agitator ideas. So that's what I said.
As said, Dr. Martin Luther King chose direct action over negotiation because without direct action there will be no change or nothing will change. Everybody, it would still be like everybody wouldn't be treated equally and nothing would get done.
I agree with Jason because in second page, paragraph 2, it says, "You may will ask, why direct action? Why sit-ins, marches, and so forth? Isn't negotiation a better path? You are quite right in calling for negotiation. Indeed, this is the very purpose of direct action. Nonviolent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and foster such a tension that a community which has constantly refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. It seeks so to dramatize the issue that it can no longer be ignored. My citizen, the creation of tension as part of the work of the nonviolent resistor may sound rather shocking, but I must confess that I'm not afraid of the word tension. I have earnestly opposed violent tension, but there is a type of constructive nonviolent tension which is necessary for growth. The purpose of our direct action program is to create a situation so crisis-packed that it will inevitably open the door to negotiation. I therefore concur with you in your call for negotiation. Too long has our beloved Southland been bogged down in a tragic effort to live in monologue rather than dialogue. Like in the last sentence right there, it's like he's making us feel how he's feeling about that. Like how he described it. Too long has our beloved Southland been bogged down in a tragic effort to live in monologue rather than dialogue. Like, it's like he wants us to feel how bad the situation is, and he wants us to stop being blind and for us to see what's going on. Like, to pick the right thing, to like look at the other side and like to actually know why direct action is good.
I agree with what Kimberly said. I think that the last sentence does say a lot. He chose direct action because he was tired of negotiating because nobody listened to him when he was trying to negotiate because it had been too long and they waited, Negroes waited too long for their freedom, and it was time for them to do it directly instead of negotiating and talking, because that was not helping, that was not changing anything. So the only option left was direct action, so he had to do it.
I say Dr. King chooses direct action because he doesn't like waiting, because he thinks like waiting is like access denied. And as Kimberly, when he says that nonviolent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and foster such a tension that a community which has constantly refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. It seeks to dramatize the issue that it can no longer be ignored. So he says like the issue is already worse, so like just going straight and trying to fix it is better than negotiating, because that's like wasting time. Okay. When Bianca said about the waiting, it brought my mind to the second page, paragraph 3, where he says, "For years I have heard the word wait. It's ring in the ears of every Negro with persisting familiarity. This wait has almost always meant never. we must come to see with one our distinguished jurist that justice too long delayed is justice denied. So I think that he was really, to back up what she said, he was really tired of waiting, that all the Negroes was just waiting and waiting for years, but and everything they wanted to happen never happened, so they just stopped waiting and took action into their own hands.
I agree with Bianca and Ann because I think there were Martin Luther King, when he wrote this letter, he actually meant that wait meant never, and like they waited so long for something to happen, something to change, but nothing changed, so they're tired of hearing the word wait and nothing happening. So that, I think that's why they also took direct action instead of negotiating, because they've been trying and trying and nothing has happened. So
I really like how his quote, well, it grabs my attention because he's trying to say that, like, well, wait, they have heard that word, like, always, and they have never got any result of a change or anything. And, like, it's time for them to get something because, like he said, wait for them means never. And the quote in the last sentence, it says, justice too long delayed is justice denied, is that they have never gotten justice. Like, they want to make a change. Like, there must be a change because they're tired of never. It's never going to happen. So they want to make a change because if the justice is too long delayed, it's justice denied.
I agree with all three of them because if you keep waiting and waiting and waiting, the wait is going to keep going on and it's never going to happen. So he just decided to take the action, the direct action over negotiation.
Well, I now understand a lot because with negotiation, Dr. Martin Luther King had to wait a lot, but now with direct approach, he just goes straight in and gets what he wants.
Number 12, and this has proven his point because when he shows and tells, people actually believe him and they feel more into what he's saying and they can.
How do you know this? How do you know that people, like, how we actually felt, like, in what paragraph of the story? Can you give us an example? Well, I found it in the second page on paragraph 4. And it says, we have waited for more than 340 years for our constitutional and God-given rights. The nations of Asia and Africa are moving with jet-like speed toward gaining political independence, but we still creep at horse and buggy pace toward gaining a cup of coffee at a lunch counter. Right there, it's saying, like, he's trying to say, they still, like he said, but we still creep at a horse and buggy pace. That they still keep going towards getting a cup of coffee at a lunch counter. Like, at least getting that, because there could be more higher things to get, but that's right now, that's the only thing they could get right now. Like, that's their goal. And later on it says, perhaps it is easy for those who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say, wait. He's saying, like, right there, like in paragraph 3, that they have never felt the way they felt when people be telling them, wait. Like, the word never. And then it goes on, but when you have seen vicious mobs lynch your mothers and fathers at will and drown your sisters and brothers at whim, when you have seen hate-filled policemen curse, kick, and even kill your black brothers and sisters, when you see the vast majority of your 20 million Negro brothers smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society, when you suddenly find your tongue twisted and your speech stammering as you seek to explain to your 6-year-old daughter why she can't go to a public amusement park that has been advertised on television, and see tears welling up in her eyes when she is told that Funtown is closed to colored children, and see ominous clouds of anxiety beginning to form in her little mental sky, and see her beginning to distort her personality by developing an unconscious bitterness toward white people. Like, right there, he's trying to say that, like, how are you gonna tell somebody, like a family member, someone you love, that they cannot go to a playground or something because of their color? Like, that's not right. Like, then that person is gonna feel bad, and then it's just gonna start like having thoughts like, oh, so they get everything, or that kind of hate in them, and like then they're just gonna, everything's gonna get worse, and that breaks someone's heart. Like, how are you gonna like separate things from someone when everybody's the same, no matter the color, the race? We're all the same. We're all humans. And as it goes, it says, when you have to an answer for a 5-year-old son who is asking, Daddy, why do white people treat colored people so mean? When you take a cross-county drive and find it necessary to sleep night after night in the uncomfortable corners of your automobile because no mother will accept you. When you are humiliated day in day out by nagging signs reading white and colored. When your first name becomes nigger, your middle name becomes boy, however old you are, and your last name becomes John, and your wife and mother are never given the respect title Mrs. When you are harried by day and hunted by night by the fact that you are a Negro, living constantly at tiptoe stands, never quite knowing what to expect next, and are plagued with inner fears and outer resentments. When you are forever fighting a degenerating sense of nobodiness, then you will understand why we find it difficult to wait. There comes a time when the cup of endurance runs over and men are no longer willing to be plugged into the abyss of despair. Like, all of this is just telling you how sad it is, the fact that they're separating you from a color. Like, I don't see the reason, well, my opinion, I don't see the reason why somebody should judge somebody by a color. Like, it's like judging a book by its cover. You don't know what's inside of them, like the way they are. You don't know what could they bring to this world that could change everything. Everybody's human. We should all treat each other the same.
Andrew, what do you think about what Kimberly said?
Well, I agree with it because back then, colored people didn't get treated the same way as white people. They were like the lowest of the low. They couldn't go certain places. They couldn't do a lot of things.
Why do you think they were treated differently only because of their color?
Because they weren't like, people thought they weren't wrong.
I see that Dr. King makes a connection in this when he says we should never forget that everything Adolf Hitler did in Germany was illegal, and everything the Hungarian freedom fighters did in Hungary was illegal. So he's trying to see that it has the same point, like the stuff he was saying about just laws and unjust, it's actually the same as the illegal and legal. Also, I agree with K-Song when he says that he shows and not tell. Because he's being real when he says, when you have to concoct an answer for a 5-year-old son who's asking Daddy, why do white people treat colored people so mean? So he's actually like giving you really real things that can happen and showing you what's going on. So my answer is, my question is to Kimberly. Why do you think the Negroes, when they went like to a coffee shop, they only got coffee? What makes them only get coffee?
Well, in the paragraph from the second page, it says that they were still trying to like it says but we still creep that horse and buggy pace toward gaining a cup of coffee at a lunch counter. Like by that time that's like the only thing they could have done. Like they would try to do other things, but like you know how white people were trying to stop them or doing like the color separated them. By then, that's the steps that they try to go on. Like first, they were trying to like speed towards gaining political cup of coffee, but later on, like you could see the difference. How from that they could like go on other steps, like going up and changing something else.
Don't you think that they could have made like their own little shop and not go to the white shop and get coffee?
Well, yeah, they could have had, but also I think that like by then I think that whites didn't like that blacks could copy them or like take their ideas or anything, so they had to do something about it. But that's a good idea.
I want to actually also respond to what Anne said to the question. I think that you know how when you put a business up, you have to buy it personally, and then you have to put insurance, you have to pay all the things. I think that maybe whites didn't like let them buy the land and put insurance in it and make their own little business. So that's why whites were all around the motels, hotels, shops, lunch counters, anywhere. So
don't you think that they could have made it like out of their own house, like have it inside their house?
They could have, but you never know, because there's back then there were a lot of policemen that they were against blacks. So if they one day came into your house and they saw that you had your own business, they could arrest you or take your business, take the stuff that were inside, or just take the business for their own.
And I want to respond to Anne's question. They also probably didn't have the money to create a business. And if they did create a business, it probably would just get burned down, like their churches and their houses. So they probably thought, we might as well not even waste our time doing it because it's going to get destroyed. Does anybody, like what words do you use to?
Like the question that Kimberly asked Kason when she said, how do Martin Luther King show and not tell? I think that he showed, like he told but not show. He showed but not tell by like saying the way he felt, like how he saw things in front of his eyes, but he couldn't do nothing about it because the whites were more powerful than he and his people was. So it was like, let it happen, but you can't really do nothing about it because they waited like really long, but nothing was working, so they just had to let it go.
I think he did that, showing by not telling, because he wants us to feel how he felt. Like he wants us to like put thoughts in our minds and actually think how bad it was, of how it was of people judging you by a color. Like he said, like when his 5-year-old son is asking, "Daddy, why do white people treat colored people so mean?" Like that breaks your heart. Like how could a little kid that doesn't know anything just comes to you and tells you that? I mean, he wants us to see, like to open our eyes and see that that was something not right. Like he wants us to stop being blind.
And I think like throughout the story, he really showed the not tell because of the Like when you read it, the energy that he had while writing it, like if you really dig in, you can see that he had like sort of a little anger, but then he was like, we gotta make this right, so let's stick together and make it right, because that's all they had to do, because the whites were more powerful.
I have a question for that. Like, what words did he use to make it, like, to describe how it felt or how it was like?
It's in the 3rd page. When he says, that's how he shows but not tell how he feels. When he says that, when they start calling you nigger, your middle name becomes boy, or never given the respect title Mrs. When you are hired by day and hunted by night by the fact that you are a Negro, living constantly at tiptoe stands, never quite knowing what to expect next, and plugged with inner fear and out resistment. So he means like they were always scared because they never know when police or anyone like white people can come into their house and take their families away, or put them into a cage and ship them away, or what can happen next. So they was always scared and always aware of what happened.
What do you think about this, Andrew? About how he used descriptive language. Like,
I think he really uses large words to explain what he's getting through, and how he explains it.
Does anybody else have anything? Because I want to go back to number 1.
I actually had a comment to say about like what Ian said about the letter. It actually feels powerful, and it's actually making you a change and feeling like this letter is actually him speaking to you and telling you all the stuff, and not just writing it and just saying, oh, I think we should have freedom because this. He gives examples, he shows show and tell. He gives a lot of detail and explains everything, and kind of like it has a tone in here, and it sets you like a mood in you. So I think for this letter is really good.
I think that to overall conclude this, my opinion about Martin Luther King Jr. is that he's a hero because of what he did and the persistence, the perseverance he put in helping other people like him be free, and let us, this generation, do what we can do now, like go into shops and buy whatever we want. But still, in some ways, there's still like white people judging you, but it doesn't matter anymore because like we're all one and we do the same thing. It's just like Riza Jane, when she's a hero too, because she put her lives in danger to help those kids, those girls get education by in the morning testing the waters to see if there's any poison in them, or going into classes to check if it smells normal, or risking her life to give other kids education and a hope to be free. So that's my conclusion to
Oh, I'm going to go back to number 1. Then I have a question for everyone, and no one to answer it. if the question was, should unjust laws be followed, why not? And most of us, well, all of us said no. So I want to know what would happen if we did it, if they didn't follow the unjust laws.
Well, I think that if they didn't follow the unjust laws, there would be consequences, of course. But what, like, the meaning of this is that they do what they believe in. Like, even though they know they're gonna suffer the consequences, because of course they could go to jail or something could happen to them, but they risk in their life because of what they believe in, like what they think is right, and they're gonna fight for that. Like Martin Luther King did.
When I said that in the first question, I said that I don't think we should follow unjust laws because Negroes experience enough gross treatment in the court. I think that when they, like, a Negro is doing something that is not wrong, but then a policeman comes and get them, and then they take them to court, it's like they get unfair treatment. They get sent to jail or shipped away, stay away from their families. But if like a white person did something, they would like let them off with a warning or make them pay a fee. But the black got it harder. They just got it more than the white people.
I would like to say some unjust laws were already being followed because there were signs holding up and saying like white only and colored only. So those are examples of some unjust laws that were like not fair. So that's why everything was the way they were, because most people were following the unjust laws.
Does anybody think that they were wrong for not following the rules or the laws?
In a way, yes, but then no. Because if they followed the unjust rules, they would have, like, there wouldn't be nothing in it for them. But then if they didn't follow it, there still wouldn't be anything for them.
I don't really think that they were wrong. I just think that they didn't realize like what was wrong. So they were just following laws because laws are laws. You can't break them. So they were just following them because they thought it was right. And you know, like people were making, like the important people are making up these laws. Like they're the ones that you should be listening to. So I don't really think that they are wrong. They just don't know if it was wrong, what's happening. They don't realize.
I think they should try to go a different way instead of making the laws and try a different approach.
I agree with Anne. I think that it was like they had to obey unjust laws and they didn't have to at the same time. Because if they did obey the unjust laws, they were not making any change or making it worse for themselves and feeling like, I don't want this life, I do not want to live like this. But if they didn't follow them, there will be consequences and they will actually pay more than what they have to lose. So it's actually worse if they don't follow it if they do. So.
And I want to go back to what Andrew just said when he said they should have tried a different approach. There wasn't any other approach because they tried negotiation and it just didn't work. They kept getting told like it was just a wait. So that was the only other approach that they could have done, was a direct action approach. So I think that was like the only approach that they could have done that would have worked.
So what do you all think, like, in conclusion, what kind of person is Martin Luther King?
Well, my conclusion is that Martin Luther King was, he was a hero. He actually fought for this country, for us to all come together like we are now, because it was thanks to him that now we have all of this. Like now we're all together, we come to school together, and now I know that he wants us to make a change in this country because there's still some things that needs to be changed, but he already did a big part. And like now that we are all together, we should just like come into our senses and say, if he didn't change, we should continue it, because there's still some countries that still like the whites and colored people separate, but we should just like try to make a bigger difference.
I think he's like a brave and heroic person because he did. If it wasn't for him, the world probably wouldn't have changed, and we wouldn't be where we are now. We wouldn't have what we have. We wouldn't be able to go to the bathroom wherever we want, or go to school with the people that we want to, or meet other people.
I had a question. What kind of direct actions do you guys think that Martin Luther King did instead of protesting? I know that, but like, what kind of other examples did he do?
The march, when he did the march, I forgot what it was. Like they marched and they protested it and they held up signs, so that I think that's what he meant by direct action.
Also his speeches.
Yeah, his speech.
Any questions?
Yeah.